Tonight,
our faith in Christ, discipleship, does that inform our politics, or does our politics inform our faith?
with just weeks until the midterm elections, a look at the role of faith in the political forum. Plus, forgiving student loans, the latest on the administration's push to pay off the debt of some Americans. And
I didn't know if I could stay in school and finish my degree.
how one group is helping college students navigate finishing school while facing an unplanned pregnancy. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Mixing faith and politics in a deeply divided country. Welcome to Faith Nation. In Washington, I'm Matt Gelka. Partisan politics are driving a wedge into America. The division, which was once focused in just the political arena, now branches out into all areas of life, including the church. Polling shows it's now among the top 3 reasons pastors want to walk away. So with the country just weeks away from another election, Abigail Robertson spoke with 2 faith leaders about how Christians can engage politically in a more Christ-like way.
The political hurt felt in a number of churches not only stresses ministers and leaders, it sets a bad example for non-believers. Pastor Eugene Cho claims a big part of this problem is a lack of discipleship within the body of Christ.
Does our faith in Christ, discipleship, does that inform our politics, or does our politics inform our faith?
Pastor Cho argues the church often looks outward when it comes to threats to the gospel, when we should instead be looking within.
I would contend that the greatest challenge is actually within the church, and that's cultural Christianity.
And he believes many professing Christians in the U.S. aren't practicing what it means to follow Christ.
It's when certain things supersede the lordship of Christ. And in my definition, that's really idolatry. And I am concerned that politics, while it's important and has value in our world and society, politics, if we're not careful, becomes the ultimate source of power in our lives.
Cho thinks the most important allegiance in our lives shouldn't be to a politician, but instead to Jesus Christ.
I think it's important for church leaders and pastors to really hear the alarm bells about the lack of discipleship. Perhaps we've allowed church members or even church institutions or churches to drink the Kool-Aid of allegiance to a particular political party.
Cho also warns not to demonize those who disagree with you.
Because as followers of Jesus, we are people of hope. And our hope is not contingent on a politics or a politician or a party or on trends, but it's contingent on the person of Jesus.
Justin Giboney, president of the AND campaign, works to help Christians be constructive leaders on both sides of the political aisle.
But also change how Christians view politics. We want Christians to be less partisan, less ideological, and focus on biblical principles first and foremost.
The AND campaign trains Christians in a nonpartisan way on how to engage in politics.
And so I'm sure there'll be people that come out of there who are Republicans and some will be Democrats, but hopefully they'll be constructive leaders as they move forward.
Their training centers around the gospel and critiques both parties.
Coming into this next election, we're really going to be focused on Christians, not necessarily agreeing on everything, but being able to have constructive conversations and be constructive citizens rather than tearing everything down, which we see coming from both sides right now.
Giboney believes while it is important for Christians to vote and engage in politics, the key is to stand far enough away from either party to be able to provide honest critiques. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Well, looking at the political landscape today, it's not hard to see the pessimism and the volatility. So how can Christians play a part in helping to break down some of the barriers in politics and public life? This week, a new group launched that could help answer that question. It's called the Center for Christianity and Public Life.
The fate of American democracy is tied to the character of Christianity in this country. That's why our mission is to contend for the credibility of Christian resources in public life for the public good.
Michael Ware, the president and CEO of the Center for Christianity and Public Life, joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. We're about to talk about the two things you're not supposed to talk about at dinner, and that's religion and politics. So today, people might think that if you are a Christian and engaged in politics, you need to believe this way on the issue and that way on a different issue. And if you disagree, your faith could be questioned. Should things be so black and white?
Yeah. So I appreciate you having me on. That saying is a common one. You'll hear it all the time. I've come to believe that the saying is generally true, but for opposing reasons. People don't want to talk about politics because they hold their views too tightly. Too much of their identity is staked in politics. People don't want to talk about religion because they're haunted by the idea that they do not stake their lives in the religious things enough. That God takes up too little space in their life. And so I'm concerned about this. I say, politics is important, but it's not ultimate. We should take politics seriously, but seriously in the right ways, not the wrong ways. And that's a big part of the mission of the Center for Christianity and Public Life, which, as you said, launched this week, and that I'm really excited to lead.
Well, another one of those missions of the Center for Christianity and Public Life is to contend for the credibility of Christian resources in public life for the public good. In layman's terms, practically, what does that look like?
Yeah, that means that we advance the resources of the Christian faith, our intellectual and theological tradition, our institutions, our people, as relevant and credible in the midst of what you see in the news every day, that Jesus actually is up to the task of our public life, and that Christianity has great things to offer. So, for instance, is gentleness viable in public life, or is gentleness at best something that only holds up in our private and sort of personal interactions? Can we have a society that is more oriented around a preferential option for the poor, for those left out, for those on the margins? Is forgiveness something that is wise in public life? These are all things that are under question right now, but Christians have tremendous things to offer to the public for the good of the public. And that's at the core of the center, which is we do not offer things out of as an act of imposition, but out of a spirit of loving service, offering what we have. And both in the past and today and in the future, Christians have had and will continue to have great things to offer our country and our communities.
You brought up gentleness and forgiveness. I'm glad you did, because if you watch some of the midterm debates going on, I'm not sure you see a lot of gentleness and forgiveness going on. Yeah. I'll ask you this. Can Christians still have a place in politics when many view the fringe, like Christian nationalists, as representatives of the faith?
Oh, that's all the more reason why Christians who view their role as willing the good of their neighbors, as loving their neighbors, as that's all the more reason for us to be involved, for us to offer a different kind of witness, to be a different kind of presence. And yes, it is possible, but we need to not take our marching orders from politicians and from political parties. We actually need to engage in politics with our feet not grounded in politics, but with our feet grounded in the gospel. And when we do that, we're in the safest place we can be. When we're engaging in politics with our feet planted in politics, that's not going to end up well for us. It's not going to end up well for our neighbors.
Some great lessons, and we look forward to hearing a lot more from the organization. Congratulations on the launch, and thank you for joining us, Michael.
Hey, so great to be with you. Thank you so much.
All right, well, coming up, student loan debt forgiveness, how the president's plan keeps surviving court challenges when Faith Nation returns. The Supreme Court won't be taking up a challenge to the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program. A Wisconsin group asked the court to hear the matter, saying the plan increases the national debt. but Justice Amy Coney Barrett denied the emergency request. Meanwhile, more than 8 million people have already applied for loan forgiveness since the website officially launched this week, but critics worry the program could add to an already bad inflation problem around the country. More than 40 million people in the country may qualify for some student loan forgiveness. The process for applying officially went live this week, with more than 8 million people already filling out applications.
I'm surprised it's not actually more than that, given the gratuitous nature of this handout. We're talking about up to $40,000 for families making $250,000 a year.
The plan has been criticized for catering to those who had the advantage of going to college. But another criticism is how the program, which could cost $400 billion over the next decade, might impact already high inflation.
Every time Congress and the president spend a dollar that we don't have, and they need to borrow that money, that requires the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates harder and faster in order to keep inflation under control. And the more the Fed slams on the brakes of the car in this economy, the more people are going to go through the windshield. We have countless Americans now who can't afford a home because interest rates have gotten too high given home prices right now.
6 Republican-led states have sued to block the program. A federal judge dismissed the case Thursday, saying the states failed to prove they had standing to bring it before a federal court. The president defended the plan when the application process launched this week.
Republican members of Congress and Republican governors are trying to do everything they can to deny this relief, even to their own constituents. As soon as I announced my administration's student debt plan, they started attacking it, saying all kinds of things. Their outrage is wrong and it's hypocritical. I will never apologize for helping working Americans and middle-class people as they recover from the pandemic.
The timing can't be ignored. With less than 3 weeks before pivotal midterm elections, Democrats are hoping the plan resonates with voters.
Particularly younger voters or those who are still paying off those debts, if they feel like it is going to help, that could be a boost. At the same time, the net result might not be what Democrats expect because there are folks who believe it's not the right thing to do, and it's not fair to those who haven't had that debt.
The student debt forgiveness application period lasts till the end of next year. So joining us now with more on all of this is Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council. Tony, thank you so much for the time. We'll start here with the Treasury Department. They're saying today that the federal budget deficit was sliced in half this past fiscal year, and that reduction would have been even bigger if it wasn't for President Biden's plan to forgive student debt. While it may help many Americans, overall, is the debt forgiveness a good move for the economy as a whole?
Well, this is problematic on 3 fronts, and you've talked about those. You've got the fiscal issue here and what it'll do to inflation, causing the Fed to have to squeeze the monetary supply even tighter. You've got the legal issue here. Even Nancy Pelosi back in August said the president does not have the authority to unilaterally do this. This is an issue of Congress. They have to be involved in this because they're the ones that hold the purse strings. And then there's really a moral issue here. I would say this is a Biden bribe. We've heard about the Putin price hikes. This is the Biden bribe right before the election. The timing of this cannot be missed. So this is problematic, should not be allowed. And we have to look at, hey, I'm sure that those who are going to benefit from it, this is great. But what's next? We cannot allow our elected officials, when elections come around, to be able to take money out of the public coffers to essentially buy votes. This is absolutely wrong.
We'll switch to one of the most watched governor's races in all of the country over in Georgia. When asked on MSNBC about how she would help alleviate high prices, Georgia Governor hopeful Democrat Stacey Abrams tied her answer back to her view women need access to abortions, including saying, quote, "Let's be clear, having children is why you're worried about your price for gas. It's why you're concerned about how much food costs." What do you make of these comments?
Well, I hope Americans don't miss what she said. This is how extreme the Democratic Party has become on abortion. Let's step back for a moment and look. What does the Bible say about children? They're a blessing from the Lord to be embraced. They're not burdens to be aborted. And now you have the Democratic Party that's using the economy, which in large part is driven by their own policies, as justification for abortion on demand all the way up until birth. And when you talk about extreme policies on abortion, you cannot get a Democratic candidate or Democratic leader, for that matter, to say where they would draw the line on abortion. They want it all the way up into the day of birth.
These midterm elections, they're seemingly being defined basically by abortion versus inflation. So I'll ask you this question that sort of ties both of them together. If Democrats maintain control of the House and Senate in the midterms, President Biden this week said the first bill he will send to Congress will be to codify Roe v. Wade. With the economy in the shape it's in, does it seem reasonable for the president to make that the #1 priority?
Again, it shows how perverted and twisted the priorities of the Democratic Party are, and it also shows how short-sighted they are. You know, we're already seeing this pyramid effect where we have fewer workers to pay for a burgeoning group of retirees. We have more people now looking to the government for help than we have working, paying into government through taxes. That's only going to get worse. We're going to find ourselves the way of China and Europe if we continue to encourage aborting our children and the very future of our country. Again, short-sighted, focused on elections. It's very telling of where the Democratic Party is and what they're proposing to Americans. I hope voters are paying very close attention to what they're saying, not what Republicans are saying about them. Forget what we're saying. Just look at what they're saying themselves. It's very, very revealing.
Well, we'll leave it there for now, but as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you, Tony.
Good to be with you. Have a great evening.
Coming up, the struggle of caring for a baby and being in school. See who's helping student moms make their dreams come true after this. College students facing unplanned pregnancies often think they have to choose between having a baby or getting a degree. Many of these women feel isolated and unsupported, but thanks to an organization in Alabama, that narrative is changing one step at a time. Charlene Aaron brings us that story.
The nonprofit group Baby Steps helps pregnant and parenting student moms at Auburn University with housing, support, and community. It can empower them to have their baby and education, a mission Baby Steps hopes to spread to other campuses across the country.
We have housing in the front house for our student moms that have newborns, but then we have 3 apartments separate in the back for mamas who have toddlers.
Baby Steps has operated near the Auburn campus for the last 5 years. Director of Operations Caitlin Willing shares how it all started.
In 2017, Michelle Schultz actually founded Baby Steps. She had an unplanned pregnancy here in Auburn when she was a student, a junior, and she didn't know what to do. She really thought her life was over the way that it was and didn't think that she could stay in school and finish her degree.
When I initially found out that I was pregnant, I thought, what is that blue line right there? Because I was not ready. I wasn't expecting it.
That's the reality for many young college students who fear that a child could shatter their dreams of getting an education.
I was driving to school and to work, so I work full-time, and I was living in Tallahassee. I had to drive 45 minutes to work. I'd go to school. I'd have to drive 45 minutes home, and by the time I got home, it was time to get Riley ready for bed. There was so much disconnect from trying to juggle being a parent and going to school.
An issue Willing knows all too well.
When I was a junior on Auburn's campus as well, I had an unplanned pregnancy, and navigating that was probably one of the most trying times in my life. I didn't know if I could stay in school and finish my degree.
Located just a short walk from campus, Baby Steps provides resources to help women on their journey to a college degree while also embracing motherhood.
There is a gap here where women may say, I do want to have my child, but now what do I do? And we know that the most amount of unplanned pregnancies happen between the ages of 18 and 29. So we saw that there was a need for a resource to help women truly finish their education. And the way that we can do that is to take all of the things off their plate that are stressing them out.
An on-campus club that helps meet the needs of student moms is just one way to alleviate some of that pressure.
We help moms in tutoring. We package and deliver meals this year, which is a new thing that we started, so that's fun. We get to offer babysitting services to moms.
Auburn senior Devin McGlong says volunteering to help fellow students is both rewarding and inspiring.
It's really cool to see graduation pictures from them because they look so proud, and they should be, because they did such a huge thing. Like, they raised a kid and they got an education, putting in the work that takes. Like, I can't imagine how hard it is.
While Auburn does not fund the on-campus club, Willing sees it as an asset to the university.
We have so many resources on campus because we do help their student retention. They want their girls to stay in school. It is such a beautiful way this community here in Auburn has stepped up and said, we're going to fill in the gaps for these women and we're going to help them succeed.
As a graduate with a degree in human development and family studies, Willing says it's refreshing to see other women fulfill their goals.
We've helped 18 students graduate, walk across that stage, whether they're still pregnant or have a little one in tow, which has been a beautiful thing. We've served 85 student moms in some capacity since opening our doors in 2017. And we have had 8 girls live in this home and finish their degree.
Many are beyond grateful.
Without baby steps, I don't think I could invest in my child the way that I needed to. And they gave me that window of opportunity, and I'm glad I took it.
Much needed help that will soon expand to young mothers-to-be on other campuses.
We are currently going to the University of Central Florida. So we have one fully functioning site here on Auburn University. We are in the works of getting their campus launching, and we have another campus that's not too far behind them that we're working with to open their doors.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Auburn, Alabama.
Well, finally tonight, parents would give anything for their children, and for one Michigan couple, that even means giving up part of themselves. Aaron and Vanessa Rhodes' son Channing was born with a rare genetic disorder that enlarged his kidneys. Around his first birthday, he needed a new one, so his dad offered his up. When the Rhodes' second baby was born, she needed the same surgery. Like her husband, Vanessa decided to donate her kidney.
It's a long recovery and still kind of dealing with some pain, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Both children are doing well, and their parents are in awe of their resilience. They say nobody will love you more than your parents, and they're living proof. That'll do it for us. Have a great weekend, everybody.